So when people decide that they're going to get divorced or they're seriously thinking about it, they tend to have this knee jerk reaction, I think, which is, I need to call a lawyer. I need to get in right away. And that's pretty much the only thing they're thinking, which is understandable because they don't know anything about the process or what goes into it. And they think their lawyer's going to do everything for them. And what I have learned by being in this business for so long is that lawyers are great. They definitely have a purpose. You need a lawyer to legally go get divorced in court. But there are so many things you can do to get the outcome that you want and to minimize mistakes, costly mistakes that can be made by just counting on your lawyer and not thinking about anything else. So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about 4 mistakes people make when getting divorced and how to avoid making them. Now, everybody knows I am not a financial expert. So I have 2 wonderful guests on here who are financial experts. Their names are Catherine Shanahan. Catherine is a CDFA, and Karen Shalou, who's a legal liaison. And Catherine and Karen are the founders of My Divorce Solution, a company that I just think is so wonderful. We're going to talk about it and get into more about what My Divorce Solution does. But these 2 women know about people making mistakes and are in business to help people not make them. So, hi, guys. Hi, Karen and Catherine.
Hi, Jackie. Nice to see you today.
Hello.
All right. So, you guys, did you agree with what I was talking about where people just say, oh, I need a lawyer. I want to get divorced?
Definitely, because that is the old way of doing it, right? But one of the things I love about my divorce solution is we have that space where you can determine whether or not you really want a divorce. Because when you go to an attorney consult on getting a divorce, and you're not sure, they can't really do anything for you. So if you're listening, I bet you can agree or you can call in and say, you know what, I went on a consult and I got no information leaving there because everything depends on the information that you're not ready to go there with, right? So you're going there typically because your emotions are running really high. You either were blindsided by your spouse who said, I want a divorce. So now you said, oh my gosh, I need to go get an attorney. Or you're thinking divorce and you don't really know what the next step is. So you think, I have to go get an attorney and I should go get my best friend's attorney who's a shark, right?
And right. And people think that these attorneys know everything. And listen, this is not even a knock on divorce attorneys. They know everything about the law, but they don't know about finances, real estate, who's going to how you get a mortgage. There are so many other things that go into a divorce. And you're right, Catherine, that was the old way of doing things. People just called an attorney. Since I've gotten divorced in 2008, the whole divorce industry, I believe, has changed and it is so much better. And so I want to tell my listeners that Karen and Catherine wrote this article called 4 Mistakes When Getting Divorced and How to Avoid Making Them. These are common mistakes, and I'm going to read the mistakes and then you guys can kind of explain what you're talking about. So, the first mistake, mistake number 1, is that people fail to confront indecision. So divorce is not like you just say, okay, you wake up, I'm getting divorced. And, we all want to say, Siri, give me a divorce. And you're divorced in like 10 minutes. But that is not the way it works. So tell me about how not confronting indecision can lead to going down a bad path.
Wow. So indecision can be the failure of your divorce, for lack of a better word, because people think they have to decide before they move forward. But we say you actually need to prepare to make the decision to move forward if you have that ability and if you're not in harm's way. Because having that information allows you to know what life would look like during the pendency of divorce financially. It would help you know what you can anticipate post-divorce. And it also helps you know what team to put together. For instance, a lot of people will go to an attorney and have a consult at the outset if they're thinking about it, but they don't even know what questions to ask. Many people on our assessment calls will say, yes, I went to an attorney. I always say, what did they say? They say general things about how the process works and this is what we're going to do. But when I ask the real pertinent questions about, date of division of assets or very pertinent questions regarding financial status, first of all, they didn't even think to ask, and certainly they didn't get a response. So preparing for divorce, whether you're going to get divorced or not, sets you in a place of knowing, and then you're so much more confident moving forward if you do choose the pathway of divorce, because you've already taken care of the financial situation. You may not know all the values, but you generally know what it's going to look like, so that when you're dealing with the emotions of divorce, you're better able to navigate that in a way that's getting you to the finish line more efficiently and effectively.
Okay, I love this. I was.
Can I add an
Go ahead.
example to
Yes,
that?
please.
When Karen talks about being prepared and getting further down the road, let's just take the example of, and also Jackie, you say, and I know you were reading some of the article, that you don't just wake up and say, I want a divorce today, right? Even if it's sprung on you, you don't wake up and say, I want a divorce, because when it's sprung on you, a lot of times your emotions are, oh my God, what can I do? I don't want a divorce. So when you go for that consult or anywhere else and you're undecided, the only thing your attorney can do is file for you. And now what happens is your attorney has to file, and the language is not very nice in that filing. So now your spouse is served that not very nice letter that they're being sued for divorce, whether you are initiating, whether you want it or not. And now your spouse is getting angry at you. So now you've just went down an emotional path that you probably could have alleviated a lot of that by being prepared. And that is finding out what divorce looks like, what it might financially look like, whether you decide to get divorced or not, and what your team might need to consist of before you already take that step to create this turmoil. Although the turmoil started.
No, you just
exploding it.
described my own personal situation. That's exactly what I did. I didn't mean to be rude about it. I didn't know what I was really serving him. And it was like declaring a war. And it's not personal, but yet it is. And it just took us down this really negative path of litigation. Okay, I just want to back up for a minute and talk about the fact that Karen was saying that if you're thinking about getting divorced, you should get this financial picture so you know what to expect. So I want to tell my listeners, there is no judgment, at least by me, and I don't think by Catherine and Karen, if you look at your financials and decide it's better for me to stay married. People in this life have to do what is best for them. So having the information will either make you feel like, I really need to stay married, or more likely than not, give you the confidence and say, wow, this picture looks pretty good. I could probably do this. And when you know and you see the financials on paper, you don't have that fear because you know what to expect. And so you don't know exactly what to expect, but you start to figure out that, okay, I'm going to be okay. I can do this. What do you guys think?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely no judgment there, because if you look at your 100 people that you know right now that are married, probably half of them are staying together because they don't want their financial life to change. So there is no judgment. You have to do what's best for you, but you need to figure that out before you take the steps to initiate the divorce process, or even take the next step of going to mediation. If you're not financially clear, you're not making good decisions for yourself. And we always say at My Divorce Solution, sometimes your solution is not to get divorced. So people get their financial portrait just to have a autonomy of financial information and to reestablish new financial goals and expectations moving forward. And they get post-nups, or they just use it for their financial planning, but they've had those tough talks with a third party, because financial talks are very difficult. But when you have a third party like MDS in there having those conversations with you, it kind of gives you a level playing field. And then you can decide which route is better for you, to stay married or to get divorced.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Divorce Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. And today I'm talking to Catherine Shanahan and Karen Shalou, the co-founders of My Divorce Solution. We are talking about mistakes people make when they decide to get divorced and how to avoid making them. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I want to tell you guys about My Divorce Solution so you kind of know what we're talking about specifically about this financial portrait. And I also want to talk about 3 more mistakes that people make when they're getting divorced. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Divorce Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. And today I'm talking about mistakes people make when getting divorced and how to avoid making them. I'm here with Catherine Shanahan, a CDFA, and Karen Shalou, a legal liaison. They are the co-founders of My Divorce Solution, an amazing financial preparation program for people who are considering divorce or going through one. Okay, before we go on to mistake number 2, let's just talk about the financial portrait so people know what we're talking about. Like if they have a conversation with you, what are you going to give them if they work with you that will help them decide whether they can get divorced or what to ask for and all this other stuff?
So the, excuse me, the MDS financial portrait is going to provide any person or couple, sometimes couples hire us together to get the portrait. It's going to give you clarity as to what your cash flow is, how your family spends money, what is marital and separate property, what's in the gray area of marital and separate property, working through division scenarios relative to putting your, like some people want to retain the home, for instance, or a specific account for emotional reasons. So we don't have an agenda here. The portrait has no agenda, but it definitely responds with the financial impact. Okay, if this is what you want, this is the financial impact. So you will have that. And then it also includes what we call a table of recommendations and considerations. So that's for every asset and debt that you're dividing and other matters related to getting a divorce, how to negotiate those assets. So, you know, if you think you're going to split the house or sell the house or one's going to retain the house, what are those line items that you have to further negotiate? So by the time you have gone through the exercise, and that's exactly what it is, working with your team here, you have a team of 3, you are clear on what you have and what you want and what the parameters will be relative to any division scenario. So again, sometimes people don't have specific valuations, but they know, like for a home or whatever, but you generally know what it is. And so that you can make really good decisions moving forward.
Okay, now if someone's listening to this and they think this sounds intimidating, I'm not a numbers person, I want to tell you, they're making it really easy for you. And you can ask your team questions. They will explain things to you. And what I want to tell my listeners is that based on me, someone who went through a divorce and let the attorney handle everything or whatever, bad outcome. If I would have had the confidence, well, My Divorce Solution wasn't around when I got divorced, but had I had somebody like that, had I had a financial portrait and had the courage to become empowered, which everybody who does says it wasn't as hard as I thought, right? Then I would have gotten such a better outcome. And they're giving you options. They're saying, like, if you want to keep the house, here's what everything else is going to look like. If you don't keep the house, here's what it's going to look like. And then you can kind of analyze it and look at it. I mean, I think it would be really interesting, almost like fun to say, okay, like, here's what I could do, here's what I want. And you don't make the decisions overnight either. You can look at this thing for weeks before you decide what you want to do. And then it works for you in mediation. It works if you give it to your lawyer. Lawyers would love this. I mean, it cuts their fees about 80%. but it would make their job very, very easy.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? It's a reality check. It's a financial reality check. Good, bad, or indifferent. We have no agenda but to show you what your marital estate looks like, what your separate property could look like, and what you need to validate all of that, right? And so, we're not here to tell you what you want to hear. We're just here to talk through what we are verifying with data and what we are verifying, not verifying because we don't have the data. But it's a reality check for you to move forward in the direction that's going to be best suited for you and your family. And there is no other place to get that.
Mhm.
That's so
Okay,
true. And
let's
I
look-
just want to add that so many people, a high percentage of people think, well, my marital estate is pretty straightforward. We're simple. About halfway into any call, they realize there's so much more to unpack that they never, ever considered, because getting divorced is not equal to a net worth statement on any day. So that's where people are misled and misguided because they think it's simple. And there's just so many different factors and nuances that make it more complicated. And it could, end up in $2, $3, $4, $500,000 that you would never know if you didn't go through this exercise of preparation.
And just to tell my listeners, your guys' fee is a flat fee. So it's
Mhm.
not like an attorney, they're not billing you hourly. So really, you could ask as many questions as you want and take as much time as you need. Whereas I remember with my divorce attorney, I felt like the clock was ticking because I wanted to stop paying. So, all right, let's move on to mistake number 2 that people make, failing to get organized. So, I'll let you guys explain that. I mean, it's kind of obvious, and my divorce solution helps you get organized, but go ahead.
Yes, we absolutely do. And that's through working with our clients on an online portal that really just breaks down the financial divorce process in, in easy steps. So easy is a relative word there, but when you compare it to just getting this pack of papers from your attorney or your mediator and saying, fill it out, and you have every risk of, writing one number down that could change the course of your divorce, it really is important to gather your information. And people have access to so much more documentation than they really know in the beginning. So taking the step of organization, which we would call preparing for divorce, is really essential before you start to move forward, if at all possible. Of course, some people are in harm's way.
And I'm going to
Well,
add to that with the first, I think it was the first mistake. Of course, I just lost my train of thought, but failing to get organized, when you decide to get divorced or you're preparing to get divorced through our process, there's this honeymoon period. And so if you do not get your spouse served and they just know you're thinking it, or you've heard what they said that they want the divorce, this is your time to ask for the information that you did not have access to. Because if you lose that opportunity, you'll get the information probably, but it'll cost you a lot more. And it's a lot further down the road that you get that information. And that time frame, you make decisions based on your on being unorganized and emotional. So you prematurely negotiate something. So what happens is the information starts trickling in and you decide to make a decision because your spouse will say, well, if you decide on this, I'll give you more information later. So you say, well, yeah, I want the more information, so I better decide on this. So that's so costly. And I don't know if I just made sense in what I said. I'm getting so hyped up in that. I really want people to get organized. In the best case scenarios, they come to us first, but even we get a lot of people that come in the middle of the process. And we always wish that they would have just started differently because it does make such a huge difference to your outcome.
Great point. Because everyone at the beginning is, we're not going to be like all those other couples. We're going to have an amicable divorce. This is the time to ask for the stuff. And instead of when everything gets really, really litigious and everybody's mad and one person has a new boyfriend or girlfriend, well, now you have to subpoena those documents. That costs time, that costs money. So the thing about getting organized is you're going to have to get all the documents anyway for your lawyer. So why not give them to Karen and Catherine? You're doing the same thing. You're not doing any more work. By the
Well,
way, I want to tell my listeners, I sound like I'm doing a commercial for my divorce solution, but this is genuinely, I am trying to help you save so much time and money and aggravation and have a better divorce outcome, honestly. All
That's so
right.
true. And can I just add one thing in there, especially about the discovery process? And I know we may be running short on time, but when Catherine mentioned that, people are halfway in and then they realize that their divorce case has gone off the rails, it's usually because the opposing party has not provided the information or documentation necessary to have clear valuations for their assets, correct? So what happens in that case, then our clients or potential clients will say, well, the judge is going to be mad at my spouse because he or she didn't provide what's requested. To which we respond, no, the judge isn't going to be mad at anybody because your attorney has every tool to get the information, and that's the relationship with your attorney. So if you're able to go to your attorney knowing what you need and understanding the process of obtaining that information, you have a better chance of getting the information, because yes, you can subpoena account statements, but there's some information you just can't subpoena relative to business valuations or other complex assets. So I always like for people to understand that there's no judgment day in that space, because the process is expensive, and for your attorney to chase down that information sometimes is more money spent than the asset itself is worth, and that's a tragedy.
Right, and people think they're gonna be punished by their spouse is gonna be punished by the judge, and the judge is just the judge, and it's so disappointing because they don't even bat an eye. They just, give the person more time, which costs you more money, and okay, whatever. All right, mistake number 3, choosing the wrong divorce process. So there's 4 ways you can get divorced, and 1 is litigation, 2 is mediation, 3 is the collaborative process. What's the 4th?
do it yourself.
Oh, do it yourself. Okay. So what do you guys see typically happening where people did when you say choose the wrong process, they just immediately assume they have to go to litigation?
Well, they either assume they have to go to litigation or they think that they're going to get everything, all the advice they need in mediation. And none of those 4 options you just mentioned are good if you're not prepared, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So, if you choose your attorney because your best friend had that attorney or your sister had that attorney, guess what? Their marital estate is probably different than yours.
Right.
If you go to mediation because you think the mediator is going to be on your side and help you there, no, that's not their role. Their role, you have to go there prepared so the mediator can steer you in the direction that they need to get you to an agreement. And if you do it yourself, and then collaborative is the same. And if you do it yourself, you have no idea what you're filling out or what you're leaving out if you're not prepared. So none of them work without being prepared. And that's exactly what MDS stands for. Once you're prepared financially, you'll know what type of an attorney you need if you're going to litigation. You'll be prepared for mediation because you're going to go with your own division scenarios so that you can have the mediator talk you through that. If you want to do it yourself, which is something we never recommend, at least you'll have the financial information all together. And collaborative, it's the same thing. You'll go there being prepared so that the professionals involved in collaborative can help you come to a good decision.
When you have everything on paper and it's all backed up with proof, there's really nothing to argue about. Like, here it is. There's nothing, whether you're in mediation, litigation, collaborative process, it's all right there. You guys have done all the upfront work so that the process, any process, is the time is cut by 80% because it's all right there on the portrait.
Exactly. And your documents are inventoried with us. So we know everyone will know what you've submitted, and it'll be footnoted what was requested and not submitted. So every other professional gets to really work to their expertise because you're going there prepared.
Yeah.
Okay, we're
And you
running
know the
out of
questions to
time.
ask. That's a really important thing.
And you
You
know what
the
to ask
questions.
for also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Mistake number 4, hiring the wrong help. What does that mean?
That's again, you go hire an attorney because, your best friend hired that attorney, but really your issues are the parenting plan, and your attorney that you hired is not an expert in parenting planning. So now you just hired somebody to focus on an area that you shouldn't be focusing on. Or you have really complex assets, but you hire a really good attorney who's good with parenting. And now that attorney is not really good with, restricted stock units or businesses. So now you're not matched with the appropriate person for your case.
hmm Or you hire a litigator when your spouse is truly trying to provide the documents and information, which sometimes can just blow up a case because some litigators only litigate. They will look at me and say, "Oh, I love to litigate." Okay, well, that's great if you need a litigator, but what if you don't need a litigator? What if you just need someone who's sophisticated financially, who knows how to put this together in a sound marital settlement agreement for you? And then convey that to the other side without disrupting the progress you've made. So there's so many variables when you're looking to hire your professional divorce team, which includes coaches and therapists and all of that. There's things that you need to know. You need to know where you need the support.
Well, I love this conversation because I want to tell my listeners, if you go to divorcedgirlsmiling.com and you look under trusted professionals, I want to tell everyone that all of these people have been trusted, that I'm sorry, have been trusted. Well, they are trusted. They've all been vetted by me and my advisory board. And you can see their different niches. I make it very clear. If you go to their pages, for example, if you're looking for a mediator, okay, I'm just going to use one example. Michael Cohen is a mediator who it specializes in parenting plans. That is his niche. That is what he has a passion to do. Then you have a mediator named Leah Hadley. And I'm not saying Michael is not good at financial, Leah's not good at parenting plans, but if this is your thing and you want a good parenting plan, Michael's your person. Leah's more financially focused. Leah will, she's also a CDFA, so she will help you with that. So you can see everybody's specific niches on the site. So I just thought I would throw that out there.
Yeah, you do a really good job with that, Jackie.
Thanks, guys. But if you go to divorce financial preparation, the only firm you're going to see is my divorce solution, because what you guys offer is a very unique process. I don't know anyone else that does anything similar, really. So on that note, thank you guys so much for being on the show. I truly enjoy talking to you, really respect what you're doing. Think it's wonderful.
Likewise.
you.
Thank you for having
Likewise.
us.
If you want to learn more about Karen and Catherine and their team, go to mydivorcesolution.com. And if you want to find them in the trusted professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling, you can find them there along with other professionals. And you can also listen to more podcasts, read articles, download my mobile app, or sign up for my free consult. Thank you so much for listening, everyone, and we'll talk to you real soon.